Hi, Shawn. Congratulations on your 4-year BookTube anniversary, and thank you very much for allowing me to participate in your camera flip video. So today I thought I would talk about a few reflections I have about a reading challenge that I took part in 2016. My coworker found this reading challenge called Bustle Reads Challenge in 2016, and we decided that we would slightly modify the reading challenge, but that we would complete the tasks or challenges. Sorry, that's repetitive. But we would only read female authors, and we would add to those categories. And they were primarily genre categories. So read a science fiction written by a woman, read an autobiography or a biography written by a woman, and so on. And so we completed that challenge, and I had a really good time. We had talked about our selections and we had gone through them together, and it was a really interesting experience. And so when I was finished, my partner said, "Well, you love that so much, why don't you do it and read only male writers?" So I did that, and this time my partner helped me figure out my TBR for that. And so once I was finished with those challenges, I just went back to my normal reading habits. But by the end of 2019, I felt like my reading was really flat. I wasn't really enjoying what I was picking up. And so I thought, maybe I need to take a step back and challenge myself again and see what it is that I really like. Because by the time I was done those reading challenges, I had pretty good ideas as to what genres I really preferred. But I definitely wasn't 100% clear on the formats of texts that I enjoyed reading. So my plan was to do a year-long reading challenge in 2020. Sorry, took notes. That's why I'm looking down. And I decided that each month for the 12 months of the year, I would read a classic, a play, a short story, whether that was an individual short story or a collection of short stories. I'd read a nonfiction text, a translated work, a selection of about 10 poems, read a work of fiction by a writer I'd never read before, and then reread a favorite. So I did that for 12 months, and believe you me, by the end of those 12 months, I knew what I liked and what I really didn't like. Now, this really did reinforce some things about certain genres that I preferred and didn't prefer. So, for example, I discovered that I'm not a huge fan of science fiction. I will read science fiction, especially if somebody recommends something to me or somebody suggests something, but I don't find myself gravitating towards science fiction work, which is fine. I'm also not a huge fan of autobiographies and biographies. I don't mind memoirs so much, but I really do enjoy the personal essay format. So that seems to be something that I find palatable. The most surprising thing for me was that I wasn't a huge fan of general fiction, which was what the bulk of my reading was. So I really wasn't reading what I enjoyed reading. I don't know what I was doing. But anyway, that was the big discovery, because what I discovered was that my favorite formats of texts were poetry, pretty much up until the beats. As I mentioned, I think in one of our bite-sized chats about Vantage, I really enjoy short stories. I love plays. I love novellas and flash, and I do enjoy reading compilations of vignettes. So I don't know what that says about my reading, because those are all quite short. But anyway, I discovered that I love listening to classics and nonfiction as audiobooks. I find them much more accessible that way, and I really enjoy it when a classic has a whole cast of characters to listen to. I really like that. So it was a good discovery for me. I also discovered that I will read pretty much anything, even if I don't think I'll like it. Hence why I was reading just general fiction for quite a while and not really loving anything I was reading. But these discoveries, carried on into 2021, and now I'm reading a lot more of what I love. And the other thing that I discovered is that I'm not really big on mainstream publications. That's not to say I don't read them. And probably if I, think about the guests that you've had on your channel, Shawn, and even your reading, I tend to read more mainstream, I think, compared to a lot of people who are, hanging out here. But that's part of what drew me to your channel, Shawn, which was your reading tends to be a little bit more obscure, which I really enjoy. So I wanted to thank you for that and share, some of my favorites that are lesser known. I don't know for sure, but let's see. So in terms of sort of memoir, personal essays, I would recommend I'm Afraid of Men by Vivek Shraya. Shraya is a Canadian trans writer. I listened to this on audio, and it was very short and really good. Braiding Sweetgrass, Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teaching of Plants by Robin Wall Kimmerer. I listened to that right before Thanksgiving, and it's fantastic, but it was also very timely, as Kimmerer is really focused on how to be grateful and why we should be grateful for what we have and what is provided for us naturally. And then the last recommendation I have is A Mind Spread Out on the Ground by Alicia Elliott. I believe Elliott is also a Canadian writer. In terms of poetry, my two favorites are Emily Pauline Johnson, and Johnson is she was born and raised on a Six Nations reserve, and her mom was English and her dad was a Mohawk chief, and she was born and raised on the reserve near Brantford, Ontario, which is very close to my hometown. And then Christina Rossetti. I have read and probably will reread almost anything happily. Reread anything that Christina Rossetti has written. She's one of my favorite poets. And then I know I've just said that I'm not a huge fan of contemporary poetry, but I did enjoy some of Ty Freedom Ford's poetry. She's really subverting a lot of the poetic devices that I think are common to the kind of poetry that was created by British English and American poets, and her poetry is fantastic. In terms of short stories, these are all slightly gruesome, so please beware if that's something that maybe is not up your alley. The Box Social by James Rainey, and I believe that James Rainey is actually from my hometown. In a Grove by Ryunosuke Akutagawa, translated by Michael Brace. And then 2 in 1 by Flann O'Brien. And Flann O'Brien actually goes by quite a few names, so just be careful. Maybe search for the short story title instead of the writer. For plays, one of my very favorites is Balmoral by Anne-Marie MacDonald. Another favorite that I just recently finished is Art by Yasmina Reza. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce that. That's translated by Christopher Hampton. I believe the original play is written in French. And then M. Butterfly by David Henry Hwang, which has a very nice twist at the end. Fantastic. In terms of novellas and flash, my all-time favorite is still Diane Simmons's The Inheritance. And I actually reviewed this. I selected it to review. And it was so good that I read it 2 more times after I was finished my review. So good. And then compilations of vignettes. I actually have my favorite one, and the one I would recommend. I have it on hand because I brought it traveling with me. And it's called Tell Them of Battles, Kings, and Elephants by Matthias Enard. And it's translated by Charlotte Mendel. And actually, the cover is stunning. Oh, just love it. It's so good. If I could recommend anything that you get your hands on, it's this. Not that the others aren't good, but this one I just finished, so maybe that's why I'm feeling that way, but definitely worth it. So this is one, if you can get your hands on it, I recommend it. And then in terms of what I've been reading recently, I thought I would share this with you because Shawn had mentioned in our last bite-sized book chat that he was okay to hear about some of the books that I'd found about Greece, maybe specifically about Crete. I can't remember, but I have a whole backload here. So I thought I would just show you what my partner and I have recently picked up. So we have Zorba the Greek, and I apologize in advance if I'm butchering the Greek names of the writers. So this is written by Nikos Kazantzakis, and this has very little on the back of the book in terms of the blurb, so I can't really give you any information about it, but it's got a beautiful cover and is apparently one of his most popular books, or is his most popular book, sorry, and has origins in his own experiences in the Peloponnesus in the 1920s. So this is one my partner picked up. And then another one my partner picked up is Nikos Angonopoulos' Cafes and Comets After Midnight and Other Poems. And this is translated by David Connolly. Again, another beautiful cover. And with these publications, I have another book published by the same publisher, and on one page you get the Greek. I don't know if you can see that. I apologize if you can't. And then on the other page you get the English translation. So beautiful, just beautiful. I also picked up a collection. It's not a collection, I lied. It's actually just one essay written by Andreas Laskaratos and translated by Simon Dara. And it's just one supposedly controversial work, but I haven't started it yet. Again, though, on one page is the English and on the other side is the Greek. So I realize I probably have these books in front of my face. Clearly not a booktuber. Apologize about that. Last one I know will not be something that Shawn is interested in, and I apologize because it's a mystery. Sorry, Shawn, it's a mystery. So this is called Vortex, a Cretan mystery, and it actually won the Edgar Allan Poe Award and is written by David Heller, who was American, came to Crete, met a Cretan girl and married her, and ended up living in Heraklion, which is very close to where I'm staying right now, but unfortunately passed away when he was quite young. So I found this in a used bookstore, but as I said, I know you're not a fan of mystery, Shawn, but this I thought would be worth a read, especially when it was just kind of sitting on its own in a pile of used English books that clearly hadn't seen the light of day for a while. But yeah, anyhow, thank you very much, Shawn, for having this camera flip video option available. And for anybody else who's watching, I would love to hear any of your recommendations or suggestions of formats of texts that I really love that I mentioned. And if you'd like to do a buddy read or something like that, please let me know. Thank you very much, Shawn. Congratulations again. Bye now.